Welcome to the Darkstream. Vox Day, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. Yes, it's a rare Sunday stream tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Waiting to see if we get... okay, good. Audio is good. Video is good. Thank you. Obviously, the DLive chat is rolling. The unauthorized chat is rolling now as well. And super chats are live. No, this is not an emergency stream. I just didn't happen to have anything that I particularly wanted to work on at the moment. The legend and I have been working on some new stuff that we're contemplating introducing here. And there's actually a very, very interesting new project that I am absolutely not at liberty to say anything about. But we'll be keeping you apprised of these things as they develop, as they continue. A brief report on the bindery. We have determined. We've basically got all the machines have been checked out. The final approval for the last machine is going to be Tuesday. And so, assuming that that goes well, the machines are going to get boxed up, brought over, and then we're going to, when they arrive towards the end of the month, we're going to start a 2-week training and practice period. So we've already got the goat skin coming in, the cowhide coming in. The book blocks should be arriving next week. So basically, we're going to start with binding 200 copies of the meditations. Some of them will be goat skin, some of them will be cowhide. A few will be gilded, most will not. We just need to practice. And in preparation for that, the production team is taking classes in hand binding. And so they're getting practice at the hand binding before they start working with the machines. That'll give us the maximum ability to pretty much do anything from one book to 10,000. So not that we want to have a business doing one book at a time, but at least it's possible if it's necessary for whatever reason. So, but the topic is how to get through the depression. And this is more of a brainstorming thing. It's not really me telling you, oh, you should do this, because your situation is different. Not everybody can even try to do the same thing, and certain things will be within your wheelhouse, other things not so much. A lot of people have a tendency to look at what Big Bear is doing with the homesteading, what Wrangler Star is doing with the homesteading, and those are good things, no question. But A, not everybody can do it, and B, a lot of the negative scenarios don't require complete self-sufficiency. In most cases, these type of collapses are not entirely catastrophic. Usually, situations that are entirely catastrophic tend to involve an ongoing war that is taking place on that actual territory. And when I say actual territory, I'm not referring to the United States as a whole. All right, I've been reading the 6th volume of Oman's History of the Peninsular War, and there were areas that were absolutely pillaged by the armies marching through, and there were areas that were essentially untouched by the war the entire time. Now, on the one hand, there is a issue of distribution. You know, you're not going to be getting oranges from Malta in the event of even a moderate or a medium level economic crash. You know, there's going to be effects. But it's also important to remember that the collapse of the global economy means the return of the local economy. It doesn't mean that all economic activity is just going to go away. It means that, you know, the people that were making jam and shipping it all over the world are suddenly going to need to sell that jam locally. You know, most places that are not, you know, complete cities have the ability to do a considerable amount of local production. Even the suburbs are plenty big. You know, you can't have a cow, but you can have 4 fruit trees. It was kind of interesting. I'm going to read you this article that I dug up, or part of it anyhow. So I was doing some research on what industries did well during the Great Depression, because I thought that that's probably the best comparison we have to that. I mentioned before, you know, the Great Depression was very, very serious. That right now the worst that the you know the economic clowns are suggesting is a potential 12% contraction. You know, that's compared to a 30-something% contraction during the Great Depression, right? Personally, I think that this situation is going to be bigger than the Great Depression. So probably something more like a 50% retraction would be what I would anticipate if things go that way. So somebody did some research in this. It says the top industry to focus on is food. People still eat regardless of income and even when foregoing healthcare expenses. So one thing that people have to do. The classic Depression era example is Kellogg's versus Post. The former Kellogg's chose to advertise more during the Depression, while the latter slashed their advertising budget. And when the market and consumer budgets recovered, Kellogg remained top of mind and benefited from their consistent position. You know, this is important too, because it sort of points to that old Rothschild saying about investing when blood is flowing in the streets. Now, he meant that literally. Like, you know, they would be investing in, you know, Ukraine and Crimea right now. They probably are. So, you know, I've also noted, you know, years and years ago that most of the giant businesses of the 50s, 60s, and 70s were actually founded during the Great Depression. There's a real advantage to being forced to develop discipline and to be able to operate on a shoestring, which means that our community is already very well psychologically prepared for these type of operations, because the fact of our deplatforming and demonetization, even in the technological world, means that we have developed the discipline to operate on a shoestring. We've developed the ability, you know, most of our people are multi-talented and can, you know, work on a number of different things, in a number of different areas. That's vital, because remember, in times of economic difficulty, you don't need to dominate everything. You just need to survive long enough for your competitors to go out of business. Why do you think we're still pushing hard? Why do you think we're pushing harder now on ARC tunes than we ever did before? Because we anticipate that the competition is going to disappear. You know, IDW is already delisted. It's not going to be surprising when you start seeing, uh, Dark Horse, IDW, DC, Marvel, etc. I think that they're going to, some of them, perhaps all of them, are going to go away. You know, because not only are they not in any sort of structure, they don't have a structural setup to survive economic difficulty. These companies have been dying while the economy's been in good shape. How are they possibly going to survive during a downturn? I think at the end of the day, I think that in 10 years, it's probably going to be Webtoons versus Archaven. And then, probably a merged DC Marvel entity as, one of the owners sells the comic business to the other, or maybe they both get acquired by some financial company that is going to try to milk them. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's where things were in 10 years. So food is number one. And I think that you can include liquor with that. So something that something that you might want to consider doing is starting some kind of microbrewery, starting some sort of micro distillery. I think that companies that make that stuff, that do that sort of thing, are probably going to do well. Household products and essential consumables. This is a good one for the women. People still need soap and solvents and diapers and gasoline and stuff, and they still need their perceived essentials. Oh, here we go. Like alcohol, coffee, marijuana, and toilet paper. Camel almost destroyed Lucky in the 1930s because people still needed cigarettes. In our epoch, maybe people need coffee like they once needed cigarettes. Could this be the perfect opportunity for Jittery Joe's to destroy Starbucks, or for a liquor delivery service to transform Saturday nights? That's where producing soap and small scale alcohol, beer, wine, gin, whatever. Those are opportunities, and those are reasonable opportunities that you can pursue in the suburbs. Healthcare. We are living through a severe test of America's semi-capitalist, semi-socialist healthcare system, which is going to collapse, as Carl Denninger has addressed many times. The amount of waste in the American healthcare system is astronomical. Within that ecosystem, the need for disposable goods to keep our health professionals safe, ventilators to keep okay, that's just basically nonsense, the way that it's phrased. But I do think that it is potentially informative with regards to if you're able to learn basic nursing skills, basic dentist skills. Those things might well be important. Blitzkrieg Bear says, might get fined if you don't. No one's going to be fining anybody in that level of economic contraction. There's going to be, basically they're going to be looking the other way in order to allow people to take care of the less important problems. I don't think you're going to have to worry about the hair care police. Communication. Print and radio boomed during the Depression. Nowadays, streaming and teleconferencing. We'll see. We'll see. Certainly, the streaming services and the cable companies and the television stuff are doing very, very poorly. Um, Part of that's because the product sucks. You know, what's the point? Um, Obviously, we've seen incredibly useful. Um, we've seen a tremendous amount of interest in the books, especially high quality leather books that will survive. Um, and that's an important thing. One thing that we are discussing the possibility of at some point once the bindery gets going is possibly introducing a Castalia Survival uh, subscription, not necessarily in leather. Basically, what we want to do is we want to figure out what's the least expensive way that we could provide the most bang for the buck. So it might, you know, we'll have to see. But it's something I've been discussing with unauthorized resident survivalist expert, um, Piero San Giorgio himself, and so that might be something interesting for us to think about. Certainly, unauthorized is going to. Uh, I'm, we're going to be bringing Piero back onto unauthorized soon. Um, if we can, if we can get him to, you know, stick to one location for more than a day or two, might be possible. But we want to significantly increase the uh, amount and quantity of videos that we're providing. Um, so it's more than just Razor and me and Owen and the legend. Um, so we're going to be bringing on some new folks soon. Our thinking has changed quite a bit because we used to think more in terms of uh, creators who are capable of more or less holding their own, bringing in subscriptions, right? What we've realized is that with the more and more people, because more and more people who are creating content are beginning to understand that uh, having a stable base is more important than their number of followers on Twitter or whatever. And so they're becoming a lot more flexible about just being willing to come on. We're also a lot more open about the fact that having more people on supports the channel overall and helps. We want to build up the overall subscribers, the basic subscribers, and so forth. And so, bringing on some stuff that people actually need in these times, I think will be useful for everybody. Capital goods. While the new production of capital goods was almost zero, the resale value of those same goods increased as the crisis dragged on over year. Well, that's not really relevant to most of us. I don't think a lot of us are going out and buying manufacturing machines, but something to consider. Okay, oh, I see. Nowadays, there are a lot of industries preparing to sell off their means of production or transfer that production to support the health care. Blah, 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 blah. But what might be useful is stuff like, if, for example, the person that we're training with on the hand bindery, we've discovered them because I asked a guy that I buy used books from time to time if he knew of any hand bindery equipment that might be for sale somewhere. And he said, "Oh, it's too bad. This old guy just retired and he sold all of his binding equipment to this other guy. But maybe you could call them and see about if they have any. They should have extra equipment now. So that's one example of people are selling off equipment that can be used for stuff, whether it's bakery equipment, printing, print letter, what do they call it? printing equipment, binding equipment, whatever, all those things is out there. It might not be a bad idea to pick up some of those things if you have the opportunity. So anyhow, that was the idea there. Another thing that I read on a different site was that apparently what did really, really well during the Great Depression was fruit. The government came in and made it very, very difficult for people with animals. They were requiring people to, they were going in there and shooting people's cows and throwing away milk and all that stuff because, of course, they're whenever you get socialists in charge of anything, they always want to throw stuff away and make people starve. Why? I'm not quite sure, other than they're evil, but we already knew that. Doesn't mean that's necessarily going to happen in the U.S. where you are, etc., etc. What about playing in the stock market? I think that's a very, very bad idea. If you're still thinking in those terms, you are kind of missing the point. Playing in the stock market is not something that you should do if you're not employed by one of the big boys. I think even the big Swiss banks learned that the hard way. Anyhow, because I was thinking about why did the fruit why did the fruit trees do well? And I think the reason is that it's a lot easier for the government to interfere with fields of grain, herds of cattle, all that sort of stuff. With fruit trees, half the time, if you don't have a trained eye, you don't even necessarily realize that there's a fruit tree there. Bee farms are probably also a good idea, although they can be pretty vulnerable. So, but the thing is that a lot of the stuff is stuff that a lot of you can do. I mean, how many of you have enough land around you to plant, say, 4 fruit trees, 2 apple trees, you know, um, yeah, 2 apple trees, a pear tree, and something else. I mean, it's astonishing how much fruit can be produced from a single tree. I mean, we're kind of getting into David the Good territory here, and I don't know much about it, but yeah, you can turn it into jam, you can turn it into wine, and so I think that it's spring, right? Liberta says I have 4 fruit trees plus raspberries and blueberries on 1/3 of an acre. Yeah, 1/3 of an acre. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, I would encourage all of you, if you have even 1/3 of an acre, go ahead and plant a couple fruit trees. Go out, get some fruit trees, plant them, and learn how to can. Maybe learn how to, ferment or whatever. The point is that this is the time to do it. It's early May. I don't know much about plants and that sort of thing, but it seems to me this is this is the time to do it. Bunny Galore says we planted pear trees a while back. It's not instant gratification, but it's fun to watch. We have 18 acres, but a lot of woods. How long, Bunny? How long did it take from the time that you planted the trees till you were able to gather them? I'd be curious to know what your experience was there. Fruit trees usually take 2 years before they bear fruit. Right. So, this is the time to start planting stuff, you know, because you can buy stuff, um, for 6 months. I says, okay, 3 to 5. Okay. Yeah. So anyhow, I'm probably a little late in telling you to do this stuff, um, but the point is that what you may not realize is that it's a lot easier to do. Fig trees take 2. Okay, so to plant at least 1 fig tree. But the point is that start thinking about looking for things that you can do. Start a side hustle. Start a side hustle that has something to do with these industries that did well in the Great Depression, because you will be in a much, much better position than the average individual if you do so. No, I'm not becoming Big Bear now. No chances. I know you don't like the stock market, but there are inverse ETFs that will make money on downward move. Who the fuck do you think I am? Do you honestly think that I don't know what an inverse ETF is? I mean, I literally wrote the book on some of this type of stuff. You're missing the point. When the banks are failing, as we're already seeing, then you're getting into what they call counterparty risk. So even when you bet and even when you win, they don't pay you, or you can't get your money out. It's getting very, very difficult to get your money out of those accounts. You can go to a bank today, tell them that you want to close your close your account, and they won't give you cash. They'll say, "Oh, well, even when you close your account, we have to send the money to a different bank." Well, how does that help? Because they're trying to keep the money in the system, and the system is fundamentally rigged. Even, yes, there's many, many ways that you can do this kind of stuff. I've done most of those things. I mean, if I told you my track record over the last 3 years, you flat out wouldn't believe me. But it's just, this is not the time to be trying to make money with money. Okay? The time to make money with money is when the bubble starts. Once the bubble has popped, and the bubble has definitively popped, remember, the total amount of bank failures in overall assets is now greater than 2008 already. I'm not sure what this has to do with anything. It says, it's always funny to see people use the term Sigma male. If they knew where it came from, they would probably try to ban it. Yeah, they probably would. It's not about, the thing is about the whole reporting limit and stuff is that they want to completely eliminate the ability to pull stuff out of the banks. They would like to legally require you to keep it there. I have stock in George Nassif's Secure Social Media. I don't even know what that is. I wouldn't count on it being there 5 years from now. But, I mean, if you can afford to lose it, go ahead and do that. But, you're probably better off planting a fig tree, an apple tree, a pear tree, and buying a revolver. You know, I'm not saying devote everything to this kind of stuff. It's not like, oh, this is, time to panic. It's not time to panic. It is time to, uh, it is time to start paying attention to how you are going to survive or thrive if the economy goes in the direction it increasingly appears to be heading. Manuel is right. He said he just read that 2,000 plus banks are insolvent. That's correct. They are. The Fed and the regulatory agencies have been playing around with this whole like mark to asset or whatever they call it, mark to theoretical value instead of what it's actually worth. And now thousands of banks have more in they have more in debits than they do in credits. Are jobs like carpentry going to drop in demand? No, I think they're going to increase. I don't think that they're necessarily going to be building new houses, but they're going to be needing to, people are going to be needing repairs like crazy. I mean, you probably know it's how difficult it is to hire somebody to do that kind of stuff. I want to learn how to make chemicals for my dad's maid cleaning business. Looks hard, but probably a good idea. Yeah, hard. This is the time to learn to work hard and work smart. Both. You know, like I said, I mean, think about this. When the global economy collapses, the local economy is going to rise. Acquire real estate now or hope prices drop in the future. Depends on what the real estate is, but I would probably recommend acquiring it now. Remember, it's not, I mean, it doesn't do you any good if the prices drop, if your bank's collapsed, or if they've got some restrictions that prevent you from accessing it the way that you need to. Plus, if you're counting on a loan or something, it's going to be very hard to get loans. Do you think the internal combustion engines will remain a staple? Yes, absolutely. People will reduce travel? Yes, absolutely. You know, I don't think that people are going to be traveling anywhere nearly as much as they have been for the last 20 years. For multiple reasons. I mean, who wants to go to Paris now? Yeah. You can go to a much closer city and see Africans all over the place. I'm trying to get my welding certificate right now. That's a good idea, but it's more important that you learn how to do it well. You're not going to need your certificate. You're going to need how to know how to do it, and you're going to need the equipment. Make sure you get the equipment. We have the first super chat from Pug Fugly Bear. Thank you. What do you think about fields like upholstery or industrial sewing? I think that's very useful. I mean, right now upholstery is incredibly expensive. But if people get into needing to repair their stuff rather than throw it away, that's a good idea. Plus, if you learn to start upholstering, pretty soon you can figure out how to make your own chairs and make your own couches, and that can be a business right there. Older combustion engines without computers will be more valuable too, without question. Absolutely without question. Manuel says, my other plan is to just start hoarding 1990s GMC trucks. That's not a bad idea, as long as you keep them up. And probably not a bad idea to try to land some spare parts for them if you can too. But, you know, I think that, you know, I think that if you're buying a car these days, you should be looking at buying something from the, you know, mid 80s to mid 90s. You know, the 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 2010s were all about digital stuff. I think the 2020s are going to be all about real stuff, real things. There's a reason why Etsy has become a juggernaut. It's because people want real stuff. So, anyhow, that's all I've got for tonight. But thanks for tuning in. Well, like I said, we'll have some. We should have some new announcements in the Archaven space soon. I hope to have some announcements about the Castalia shipping reasonably soon, but it's going to be a few more days before we address that. Other than that, don't don't let anybody freak you out. Don't let remember, when the global economy crashes, the local economy rises. So figure out how to work within the local economy. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.